Hi there. So I wanted to share with you my XMS West presentation because I kind of feel like throwing my slides up there on SlideShare doesn't really do it justice, mainly because there's not a lot of written content and it's hard to figure out what exactly you're looking at. Relatively pointless, I personally think. Quick warning, I talk really fast, which in my opinion is much better than just your typical monotonish sort of presentation, but I do talk fast, so there's that. Also, I come from a totally dysfunctional family, which means I'm really good at untangling drama, which is why we're going to untangle the drama that are the core updates, look at some of the data, how big the updates are, some site level patterns, and some recommendations so that you don't get clobbered by the core updates. And of course, the day I'm recording this, my throat is killing me, so if I sound like I'm congested, it's because I am. All right, I guess the first thing I should do is introduce myself, and it's not working. There we go. Now it is working. Okay, my name is Mordy Oberstein. I'm the CMO of Rank Ranger. Rank Ranger is an SEO tool. We check rank, above the fold rankings, search competitors, search feature scoring and wins, all that sort of good stuff around understanding how you are doing on the SERP and well beyond. I am also the host of the In Search SEO podcast. It's a podcast that comes out every Tuesday, wherever great podcasts are found. And I am one of the hosts of SEO Chat. It's a Twitter chat that happens on Twitter, 1 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday. And you can see that's a picture of me. In case you're wondering what I look like, that's what I look like. Anyway, the first thing I want to do is go through how big these updates are. Are we really blowing the core updates out of proportion? Are they really any more, impactful than your average unconfirmed update? That sort of thing. Because I really want to make sure that we're, not really, we don't tend to blow things out of proportion in the SEO industry, right? So let's just take a look at what the data says about how big the updates actually are. And the answer is they're really freaking big. What you are looking at here is a trend chart that shows you the top position on the SERP for the health niche. And it's the top result only in the position number 1 for the health niche from middle of 2015 all the way through the end of 2019. Spikes up are increases in stability, spikes down are decreases in stability or increases in volatility, if that makes more sense to you. And I've tried to highlight or note here where the core updates begin. You see that first giant spike down? Okay, that's the medic update, which kind of makes sense why we call it the medic update, because again, this is just for the health niche. Top result on the SERP. There has never been before it nor after it such a heavy hit to that first position on the SERP for the health niche. So medic update kind of makes sense to call it the medic update. Of course, this is just a trend chart, which is just meant to shock and awe you. And I am really hoping that you were shocked and awed by that. But it doesn't really tell us exactly what's going on. So what I want to do is I want to compare some of the core updates to some of the unconfirmed updates. Look at the levels of rank volatility for both and see which ones are really that much more impactful. But first things first, I want to point out one of the interesting things which I am about to show you about the core updates is that they very much hit the top of the SERP. Positions 1, 2, 3, more so than the core unconfirmed updates rather. And to me, part of the identity of a core update is how impactful it is to rankings at the very top of the SERP. So let's have a look at rankings at the very top of the SERP, shall we? If I can find the right button, there we go. Okay, so these are volatility increases for the top 3 results on the SERP. Core updates, the medic March, June, September, and January 2020 core updates versus 4 unconfirmed updates that I analyzed. One was in February, April, and July, and December of 2019. So let's take a look. Again, top 3 results only. The medic update saw a 30% increase in rank volatility. March 2019, 21%, June, 31%. September 26%, and January another really big one, 38% increase in rank volatility. Top 3 results. Compare that to the February 2019 unconfirmed update, which had just a 6% increase in rank volatility. April 14%. Now, July is a bit of an outlier, and I'll get to that in a second. But that one saw a 23%, that unconfirmed update saw a 23% increase in rank volatility at the top 3 results. And lastly, December saw a 17% increase. It was actually on December 6th, I think, that one. 17% increase in rank volatility, top 3 results. Too many numbers, I get that. What you need to know is the core updates were 93% more volatile, so more rank volatility than the unconfirmed updates at the top 3 positions on the SERP, and that's pretty freaking crazy. Now, if you remember, from 5 seconds ago, where I showed you that July unconfirmed update, that saw rank volatility increases almost match some of the core updates. because sometimes a core update, an unconfirmed update can be really, really, really impactful. And don't discount them just because Google didn't confirm them. Okay, now let's have a look at rank volatility for the core updates versus the unconfirmed updates, but not at the top 3, at the top 10 results overall, sort of like looking at page 1, sort of kind of maybe. All right, so again, same core updates, same unconfirmed updates, but now the top 10 results, and the Medic update saw a 90% increase in rank volatility. March 66%, June 2019 62%, and September 73%, and the January 2020, the most recent one, an 88% increase in rank volatility across the top 10 results, and compare that to just 30% for the February unconfirmed update that I looked at. 51% for the April. Again, July is going to be kind of big because, again, that was a really big unconfirmed update, and that can happen. 72% increase in rank volatility, top 10 results. And the December 2019 core update, unconfirmed update that I looked at showed just a 55% increase in rank volatility. Again, it's a lot of numbers. Know that the top 10 results overall, the core updates are 60% more volatile than the unconfirmed updates. Now, since we're talking about core updates, I feel like I have to talk about YMYL, of course. So what I did was I looked at the travel niche, the retail niche as my non-YMYL sites, and then I looked at the health and finance niche as my YMYL sites. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, oh, retail is or shopping in specific is part of the YMYL category that's listed in the Quality Raters guidelines, except that Google has said that it treats commerce a little bit differently. It doesn't apply EAT to them the same way that it does, let's say, the health niche. And the data here, oddly enough, completely reflects that. So I'm not going to run through all the data here. You can pause the video. You can take a look at it. But basically what you're looking at here is every single update, to the exclusion, I think, of the March 2019 update, showed way more volatility for the finance and the health niche versus the travel and the retail niche. Again, a lot of numbers. I'll break it down very simply for you. The YMYL niches, health, finance, were 66% more volatile than the non-YMYL niches for the core updates that I looked at. So again, pretty clear that Google is hitting the YMYL niches a little bit, or a lot bit harder than the non-YMYL niches. So just to sort of recap where we are right now, core updates are fascinating in terms of how different they are at the top of the SERP, very much hitting the top of the SERP, versus the levels that we see for the unconfirmed updates. YMYL does get hit harder, so that is true. And I have a whole blog post on why I think that is. I don't think Google's targeting YMYL in specific, but I'll try to link to that in the blog post for this. And just because something is not confirmed by Google doesn't mean it's not impactful. And that should really go without saying, but I said it anyway. Okay, so with that, now we know that the core updates are bad boys. They're big. Let's take a look at some of the patterns, because one of the great things about working for Rank Ranger is I have access to a ton of data, and which means I can see a lot of the sites that do get hit and don't get hit by the core updates. And here's, let me preface this actually. Finding a pattern in a core in any update, unconfirmed core update, can be a really large pain in the rear end, like enormously hard sometimes. Less painful to do, to have your father-in-law live with you for 5 years. That said, core updates are not as big of a pain in the rear end when looking for site-level patterns, which is really interesting because Google has said, nothing to see here, just write great content, right? How do you reconcile that with there's so many patterns coming out? I don't have time for it right now, but find me on Twitter, find me wherever, and I'll love to explain that to you, because I don't think Google's lying. Like, yes, it's true, you should write good content to deal with the core updates. It's just a question of what that means. But again, topic for another time. Just know there are a lot of really interesting patterns coming out of the core updates. And of course, what are those patterns? So instead of just telling you, here's what I've seen, I'm an old teacher, so I'm going to kind of walk you through it step by step. So here we go. This is drax.com or drakes.com, because there's no period in the middle of the URL. And he is a health information site. Got slammed by the Medic update, slammed by a bunch of updates actually. Saw a bit of a reversal for the January 2020 core update. Not an entire reversal, like not even close. And that's because it actually works out well. He actually scaled back on some of the things I'm going to show you here. So he got a little bit of a bump from January 2020, but not anywhere close to where he was before the medical update killed him. So again, health information site. And before he made the changes, you would see this on every single page. You go to the page, top of the article, banner ad. Scroll down the page, another ad. You finish the article, consolation prize, 2 banner ads. And of course, the related articles underneath that is another banner ad for whatever magical powder he is selling. And I know what you're kind of thinking. Oh, core updates are about having too many ads on your page. No, I am not saying that. It is not about quantity. It's about quality. It's about what that implies about your site qualitatively, which is a very, very different construct than a quantitative problem with ads. And I want to sort of show you what I mean by that. So let's take a look at spinehealth.com. Again, another one of these health information sites got clobbered by the medical update. And it starts off with a whole series of informational content. You scroll down the page, you have your sponsored content box over here. You even have a place where you can enter your address to find, or zip code to enter to find a doctor. And you get a whole listing of doctors. And of course, you get this page about this doctor. And of course, that's not free, so that's also sponsored. And at the very, very bottom of the page, and of every page on this website, you get a box full of sponsored articles. So like, all right, there's a lot of sponsored content here, but that's not really the point. The point is, let's click on one of these articles. Here's an article about why you should get spine surgery. Yes, I said that. You should get spine surgery. It's an ad about getting spine surgery. And in fact, you can send them your MRI and they'll see if you need spine surgery. I mean, what are the chances that you don't need spine surgery? And it's not a banner ad. It's a whole full article outlining all the benefits of getting spine surgery. Now, you have to wonder how much pain you really need to be in to think it's a good idea to get spine surgery from this ad, which just goes to point out this whole thing is kind of sketchy. It makes me feel kind of, I don't know, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't know if it gives you the heebie-jeebies, but it definitely gives me the heebie-jeebies, and I think it gives Google the heebie-jeebies, which is sort of my point here. It's not about the quantity of ads, it's what the ads say about your site. What kind of site would put on it ads, full-page article ads, about getting spine surgery? Exactly. It comes down to this. It comes down to identity, right? What is the identity of your site, and does your site have a conflict in identity? Is your site, and let's say in these cases, are these sites really about offering me really good health information, or are they about pushing their ads, having a forum to push their ads to buy whatever magical powder they're selling or to get spine surgery? Can't say that enough. Spine surgery. So I call this site profiling, and it's basically Google asking, like literally, who are you? What is your site? Who is your site? What is your site's identity? Or more technically or specifically, what's your core intent profile? Do you have a well-defined identity, and are there conflicts in this identity? Right? Are you really an informational site, or are you an informational site that's really, has an undercurrent of commerce to it? Because identity equals authority. And that is true in life, and now it's true for websites. Like imagine you walk into a doctor's office. And I love this about doctor's offices. They always have that giant reception area with tons of files behind them. And there could be nothing in those files, but as long as there's tons of them, you think, wow, they have so many patients. They're so authoritative. But imagine you walk up to the counter, you speak to the receptionist, you ask, may I see the doctor? And the receptionist answers back, would you like to see the doctor about getting spine surgery, or would you like to get car insurance? And you're like, you are a spine doctor and you sell car insurance? Yes, and we also offer falafels. And you're like, I'm out of here, right? Because singular identity equals authority. Lack of singular identity, if you're a doctor who sells, does spine surgery, sells car insurance and falafels, that's not very authoritative now, is it? Now, I want to get into this a little bit more granularly, so how good Google is at doing this sort of thing. So back in September, during the September 2019 core update, I noticed that there were a lot of loan sites that got hit. And I thought to myself, you know what? Wouldn't it be smart to look at the sites that were hit versus the loan sites that were not hit and, sort of see if I could find a pattern here? And lo and behold, that's what I did. Now, I couldn't figure it out at first. At first, I thought, maybe too many CTAs because, and I forgot to mention this, The same pattern we saw with the sites with so many ads all over the place was the same pattern, the same ranking pattern I saw for sites with too many CTAs, sites with too many internal links going to product pages, too many affiliate links. Because again, it's not about ads, it's about that undercurrent of a different identity, or a conflicted identity. So I thought maybe the same thing here. Maybe these sites have too many CTAs, too many internal links to product pages, and that wasn't it. So I thought, you know what? I should probably read the content on these pages. That was a good idea, and it was a good idea. Because if you look at this page here, this page that you're looking at here is meant to show you, or meant to inform you, about a loan type. There's what is this loan? What are you in for? How does this loan work? And instead of doing that, you get why a small business loan is perfect for you. That's a little bit marketing now, isn't it? And the rest of the page is all full of the same sort of thing. This one was my favorite. When I say favorite, I mean it was the worst, because it was written by a used car salesman, for sure. Again, same thing. This page is meant to be showing you information about a loan type. What is the loan? What's the nature of the loan? How does it work? What are you in for? Straight up information. But instead, you have a business term loan. Never goes out of style. We all love a classic. And I'm like, I don't think I want to get a loan from you, because that's a little bit too salesy for me. And it was too salesy for Google. Here, by the way, is a page that a site that wasn't hit by this particular update, and you can see they do have promotional content on their site, and that's fine. Google knows you're supposed to make money from your website. That's totally okay. But when it came to talking about the actual loan type, all they wrote was secured small business loans. Dun, 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 dun. Here's what the loan is, all information about the loan, no marketing whatsoever. Which means that Google sort of understands tone backhandedly, which is amazing and scary at the same time, but that's not really my point. My point is that Google is sort of picking up on all these latent signals. Imagine you're a user and you're a person. I hate using that term. You're a person and you go to a website and you look at the UI, the UX, the layout, the format, the pictures, the tone, the whole shebang. It gives off a certain feel. It gives you a certain, it sends a certain message to you. Can I trust this site? It's very subliminal. It's very latent. But it's that what this site does, all together, overall, kind of sends messages to you about what this site is, can it be trusted, that sort of thing. And Google, just like a person does, is picking up on those sort of latent subliminal signals about your site and therefore how trustworthy your site is. So to sort of sum this up, identity and authority are synonymous, so you need to have strong identity. Google is profiling your site, asking who you are, making sure there's no conflict in identities, and it's getting really freaking good at doing this. Which brings us to, now what do I do? Right? Now that I know this, what should I be doing with my site? So the first thing, it goes without saying, but again, I'll say it anyway. The idea is to prevent being hit by a core update, though this would apply if you do get hit. If we're saying that Google's profiling your site, it's looking at your site and asking if it has identity and conflicts in identity, then the question is, how do you build a strong, unconflicted identity? It's only logical. So on one foot, and I could speak an hour or two about each one of these points, do this. Okay, pick an area, pick a topic, pick a focus, whatever it is. And it can be very broad, right? I write about SEO. SEO includes many different things. So it doesn't have to be very, very specific or, subcategorical, but pick one area, pick one part of the world and just stick to it and tackle it comprehensively. Meaning if you're an authority, or if you want to write authoritative content, or if you want to put it like this, if you look at authoritative content, it's content that looks at the topic or the focus from many different angles, has complete mastery over the topic from multiple vantage points, from multiple aspects, for multiple users, multiple levels, multiple understandings. It really comprehensively grabs the topic and completely has mastery over it. At the same time, I recommend writing about it, quote unquote, often. Right? For the same reason you want to post a blog post every once in a while to show that you're alive, if you want to write authoritative content, if you want to have identity, you need to be a part of the active conversation. You can't be an authority and not, keeping up with the trends, so to speak, or not pushing the topic or the focus that you're writing about forward. So you have to be an active writer. which doesn't mean you should write for the sake of writing, because I'm telling you that Google's looking qualitatively at things, and just writing for the sake of writing would be completely pointless. Obviously, this means that I hope this is the nail in the coffin for doing this. Don't target high search volume keywords for the sake of targeting high search volume keywords. That, again, doesn't make so much sense. That's not really novel. What I think is novel is I recommend that you don't target those sort of topics or keywords. Topics is a better way of putting it. And you know what I'm talking about? There's like the sort of topics that, yeah, they kind of relate to what I do. Yeah, they sort of don't really relate to what I do. Don't do it. Because if it's on the periphery, it's on the borderline of what you do, writing about it may dilute your focus, which dilutes your identity. Because the main point that you really want to do is, okay, if Google's looking at your site and trying to understand who you are and your identity, you have to manifest something. If you don't manifest something, Google's not going to be able to identify it. Now, there is a little bit of a hitch in this, because sometimes you can have such a strong identity that the secondary parts of your site, the secondary identities, don't do so well. Because when Google has to deal with looking at multiple identities, it has a hard time. I'm going to give you a good example, a horrible example, actually. Let's say you are Derek Jeter's, or you're, I don't know, pick whatever celebrity. You're their website. Okay, so there's bio information, maybe a timeline, all information about this celebrity or sports figure, right? At the same time, you're also selling memorabilia, because they're signing all these, baseballs or pictures, and you're selling it at the same time. So your main identity would be the informational content, but there's a secondary thing of, okay, you're also selling memorabilia. Google might have a hard time picking up on the secondary identity of the site if your main identity is so strong. Let me just give you an example of this. I want you to meet my favorite person who I've never met before. His name is Alan Page. Alan Page is an NFL Hall of Famer, one of the 100 greatest NFL players of all time, part of the Minnesota Vikings Purple People Eaters, and despite having his head clobbered in and day out, he became, this is what's so cool about him, a Supreme Court Justice for the state of Minnesota. I told you, super cool guy. Definitely check him out. Now, here's his SERP. These are the related search boxes that show at the bottom of the SERP for him. Now, I want to tackle the first and the third carousel, or the first and the third box, and then come back to the second box. So, first box, famous Vikings players. That makes sense. He was a famous Vikings player. Third one, famous defensive players in the NFL. He was a famous defensive player in the NFL. So having that there makes a ton of sense. Now, the second most important, relevant, amazing thing about a guy who is one of the best NFL players of all time and a Minnesota State Supreme Court Justice is that he went to Notre Dame, obviously. Of course, I'm being a bit facetious. No, it's not. That's kind of weird. Why is that? Notre Dame notable alumni is the second most notable thing. Google swung, Google missed. It didn't pick up on the fact that he was a Supreme Court justice. And I looked this up. There are many players, particularly from the NFL, who went into legal careers. So there's a plethora of other people to list there. When I looked at this, when I looked at Google picking up on a sub-identity or a secondary identity, about maybe 9 months ago, Google was only able to pick up on it 25% of the time. It's gotten a little bit better, so let's be very generous and say that they can do it now 35% of the time. Still not great. So in other words, if you're faced with, you have a really strong identity, you have a secondary identity, you might want to simplify things a little bit. Or as my parents always told me growing up, when I overcomplicated things, keep it simple, stupid. It may mean that you want to, be creative in how you deal with this. It may mean that you want to just pull it out and do a whole separate site, a whole separate thing with that secondary identity. So to wrap this up, strong identity with a strong content focus. Stay away from tactics that will dilute your site's identity, such as going after high search volume keywords and even keywords that exist on the periphery of what it is that you do. And don't go, multiple profiles can be complicated. You might want to be creative about how you deal with that, or give it a second thought about how you deal with that. And that's all I got. That was my XMX presentation. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. Let me know if you did. And toodles.